If you've ever wondered why your LinkedIn content isn't driving the results you want, I can tell you it's because you're focused just on posting and not on positioning. You're thinking solely about views and not on building trust. And that's the biggest reason why I see people getting stuck below 10,000 followers and unable to sign their first client from LinkedIn. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you the exact process that I've used to, yes, generate hundreds of millions of views for my clients, but also generate millions in revenue in the process. You'll learn how to create content that doesn't just get seen, but also gets clients. Because ultimately, if your views aren't turning into revenue for your business, they are meaningless. And this strategy has worked for everyone from founders to coaches, consultants, and agency owners, all the way through to execs and senior leaders at global firms. And at this point, we've actually tested, refined, and perfected this system with over 300 clients. So if you want to turn LinkedIn into a revenue engine for your business, these are the exact steps that you need to take. And at the end of the video, I'll even give you 10 tried and tested content structures that you can literally plug and play into your content system to double, triple, or even quadruple your views and sign your next client in the next 30 days. So here's the thing, trust in the modern day is currency. In fact, PwC have been studying trust for years, and they ran a study where they asked business execs how much of their audience they think highly trust them, and they said 90%. They then surveyed those very same consumers, and actually the consumers, only 30% of them highly trusted those companies. And that creates this 60-point trust gap between how much we think our audience trusts us and how much we actually do. And this is the biggest barrier to turning your audience online into paying customers and clients. It's no wonder PwC are calling trust the new currency of business. Because truth is, the world we live in today is very different to what it looked like maybe 5-10 years ago, where trust was actually quite easy to gain. All you really had to do was have a great product or a great service, and your work would almost do the talking for you. Today, it's anything but the case. There is more competition because every industry has become more accessible. That means industries are also becoming commoditized at a rate of knots, and consumers are more skeptical than ever. And that means it's really hard to stand out. Even if you have a great product, it's hard to show your value. And as a result, it's really difficult to actually build trust with your audience. We've actually found in some studies that nearly 86% of people consider the CEO's reputation when they're considering who they should work with. And what's more, over 50% of people would pay at least 5 times more for services from an expert in their industry. So quite frankly, if you want to sign more clients who pay higher rates, you need to be building trust with your audience every single day. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that. Now, this is a system that I've used to, yes, grow to over 53,000 followers myself, but also consistently book qualified sales appointments in me and my team's calendar. In fact, every year we average about 67 new high-ticket clients. And you can see here, we consistently book highly qualified appointments in our calendars each and every week. And it's because I've developed this system that I'm going to walk you through today for not just generating views, but actually building trust with your audience and converting your audience into customers. And I'm going to show you how to actually write really high quality LinkedIn content that converts your audience. But first, let me show you how to become the authority in your industry so the audience trusts you before you even publish a single piece of content. Now, this is all about positioning. And positioning is really, really important because there's an unspoken question on everybody's mind when they come across you and they see your content, which is, why should I listen to you? Why should I trust you? The truth is, in the modern day, the messenger matters. So who says something matters just as much as what they said. And I know this to be true because if I asked you which out of these two guys here you would listen to for advice on your investments, would you listen to your mate from down the pub or would you listen to Warren Buffett? I can bet my bottom dollar that you're going to say Warren Buffett, right? Even if you didn't know who either of these two people were, you would trust the guy on the right more than the guy on the left. So that's why the old mindset of, I'll just focus on delivering a great product doesn't work anymore. You actually need to be seen and trusted as an expert in your space. If it's not clear what you do, why you're credible, or how to work with you, you're going to keep getting overlooked whilst lower quality competitors sweep up mindshare in your industry and sign the clients you should be signing with ease. So how do we build trust instantly? Well, we need to position ourselves as authorities in our industry. And there are 3 things we can do in order to build world-class positioning. We need to build a promise, proof, and packaging. Your promise statement is like a personal value proposition that tells people exactly what they should expect from you. And this gives them a reason why they should care care in the first place. Because ultimately, people are selfish. And if there's not a clear reason why they should care and what they're actually going to get out of consuming your content, they're not going to stick around and actually consume it. So you need to give them a selfish reason. And this is going to relate to the kind of transformation that you take them on. So your promise is a statement of the sort of transformation people are going to go through when they consume your content. What is the start place that they're going to be, and what is the end result? What pains are you going to solve, and what goals and desires are you going to help them achieve? Once you've got a promise, you need a proof statement, because truthfully, there are going to be lots of people in your industry promising the same transformation that you do. But a proof statement can separate you from everybody else, especially lower quality competitors who maybe are new to the industry. And your proof statement is third-party credibility that people should trust you. It qualifies you to speak on this particular subject. So here you're looking at things like social proof. Maybe you've been featured in certain places. Maybe you've worked with some particularly high-profile clients. You can also use milestones that you've achieved in your career. So a milestone might be the volume of clients that you've worked with, or the amount of maybe revenue that you've generated for them. Or you can actually use specific results that you've been able to generate. Have you delivered a specific result related to this transformation for your audience? And this gives people a reason to trust you specifically. But then you also need to create complete differentiation from everyone else in your industry, and you do that through packaging. And this is your unique combination of skills, experience, expertise, personality, and values that nobody else in the industry can compete with. And once you put these three things together, you will be distinguished from everybody else in the industry. There will be a clear reason why people should actually care about what you have to say in the first place, why they should actually listen to you on a particular topic, and why you're different from everybody else that is sharing advice on it. And once you've got these three things in place, you can actually optimize your profile using these very three things. I have a full profile optimization template that if you stay to the end, I'll explain how you can get that. But some of the key things you need to know are, in your tagline, you need to include two things: your promise and your proof. So there's a piece of proof right at the start of my tagline here. It says 250 personal brands built, and then it lists some of the places that I've been featured: Sky, Entrepreneur, Insider. This is instant credibility for anyone that lands on my profile or even sees my content. They're going to see this tagline with it, and they have an instant reason why they should listen to me over anybody else. I also share our value proposition. We create thought leaders through personal branding. This is some formulation of our promise, so people know exactly what we do as soon as they come across me. They know that firstly they should listen to me if they want to become a thought leader, but also that I'm well qualified to speak on this subject because I've built over 250 brands. You can see a similar theme in the cover photo. I list some of the places that we've been featured and show some of the logos of the brands that we've worked with. I also share my promise in a little bit more detail, turning entrepreneurs into thought leaders through personal branding. I have a little bit of credibility here. It's actually a little bit updated at the time of this video. Joined 42,000 people following for daily advice. It's actually now 53,000, and we've actually helped over 300 clients. So maybe this needs a little bit of updating. But you can instantly see the elements of authority positioning coming through on my profile. And this is something you need to have if you want people to actually consume your content. You need to be able to build trust with them before they even read a single piece. Now, before I show you how to actually write a world-class piece of content, here is the simplest content strategy you need if you want to start getting better results on LinkedIn. Really, if you think about it, there are only ever three things you have to do with your LinkedIn content in order to grow your profile, build your personal brand, and sign clients. You need to get in front of new people, because quite frankly, if you never get in front of any new people, you are limited to the pool of people that already know you exist, and you're always going to be capped out on the number of clients you can sign. The very first step to somebody becoming a client of yours is they have to know you exist. So some of your content should be geared towards simply getting in front of new people, making new people aware that you exist. Of course, you then need to actually build trust with those people. And this is the part that most people miss. They're actually focused so much on the top and the bottom of this content funnel that they miss the trust building process entirely. Because you can have lots and lots of people that follow you, but if none of them trust you, they're never going to buy. And that's why you see some accounts that maybe have hundreds of thousands of followers, but can't generate any revenue from their profiles. Meanwhile, you have profiles that are stuck between 5 and 10,000 and actually can generate quite a few clients from their content. And once you've built that pool of people that knows you exist and you've built trust with them, all you have to do is then turn connections into clients and provide the next step for people to actually work with you. That's another big mistake I see people making, is it's not clear what the next step is to actually working with them. They're expecting people just to consume their LinkedIn content and book a call or buy, but there's no clear journey for their connections to go on. And that leaves us with three types of content we could publish. We need to publish content to grow our audience, content to build authority, and content to convert our audience into clients. And as I said before, most people, they're stuck in either this awareness phase where they're just producing growth-based content to increase awareness, or they're stuck just in this conversion phase where they're just posting conversion content because they want leads and it comes across as really, really salesy. If you're stuck in the awareness phase and all you're doing is posting content for awareness, growth content, you're going to get lots and lots of followers, but no clients. People are not going to trust you enough to actually buy from you. And if you're just posting sales content, again, you're also going to get no clients because your message is going to get saturated very, very quickly. People are going to see you as a really salesy account and they're not going to want to consume your content. It's actually in this middle stage where we build our authority that we really need to focus on and double down on. This is the place that most people miss. People are well underutilizing this section. This is going to build trust. And by the way, this is how I generate posts that, sure, get lots and lots of engagement on them, but also book qualified sales calls into our calendars each and every week. So how do you actually write a world-class piece of content? Well, if you're struggling to produce viral content, you can use this really simple formula. And the truth is, there are hundreds of combinations of styles and formats that are going to get results on LinkedIn, but this structure is a tried and tested format that works for me over and over again, and it's really simple for you to follow. Now, I have produced an entire guide on step-by-step how to create great content from scratch, taking you from beginner to intermediary to pro. And if you want that, just stick around to the end of the video. I'll explain how you can get it in a moment. But first, let's look at the formula for writing viral posts every single time. The first thing you've got to do is find the angle. Now, again, this is a thing that a lot of people miss. They jump straight into writing content or they're looking for the next copywriting hack. But actually, 80% of your success is going to come from finding the right angle, finding the most interesting way to introduce your topic. Because the truth is, you can say the same thing in a number of different ways and it can have completely different results. It is very easy to make one topic very, very boring and make the very same topic very, very interesting for your audience. And actually, the best angles are usually contrarian, surprising, unexpected, or create curiosity. If you introduce your piece of content in a way that is either contrarian, surprising, unexpected, or creates curiosity, you're going to get people interested in what you have to say before they've even consumed the rest of the post. And this will then relate to your hook. You only really have 1 to 2 lines to hook people into your content before they see the see more button on LinkedIn. And you've got to get people to stop the scroll and click that see more button so that they consume the rest of your post. There are 2 main ways to do this once you've got a good angle. You can either leave people on a cliffhanger, and this is best for story-based content, or you can promise a lot of value, and this is best for value or education-based content. Those are the 2 biggest ways to hook people in. Now, once you've got people's attention, you've hooked them in, you actually need to make sure the value you share is digestible. But here's the thing. Value can come in a lot of different forms. Most people, when I say value, they think straight to education, teaching people something. But actually, value can take a number of forms. Sure, it can be education, but it might also be entertainment. It could be a short moment of inspiration, like a little light bulb moment that goes off in their heads. It could simply be relatability, that they relate to the content you share. So you need to share at least one of those 4 things, but don't think you always have to out-educate the competition. Sometimes just providing a moment of entertainment, a short piece of inspiration, or being relatable is enough to provide value. Really important though is if you lead with a strong hook, for example, you've left people on a cliffhanger or you've promised a lot of value, it is essential that you actually deliver on that value. Because if you make a strong claim in the hook, but then you don't deliver on it with digestible value in the body of the post, that very quickly becomes clickbait. And you do not want to be known for someone that posts clickbait content. As you provide your value, you also need to do it in a way that is really easy to consume. So education, entertainment, inspiration, and relatability are the ways we can provide value. But you need to make sure that your value is not difficult for people to understand and digest. Because quite frankly, people are fickle and lazy, and there's someone out there creating content that is easy to consume than yours. So if yours isn't easy to consume, people are just going to go straight to that other piece of content and consume it from your competitors, not from you. So you actually want to write at a grade 5 reading level. Research shows that the majority of the American population are actually below a grade 5 reading level. So you need to write in a way that is really simple for people to consume. Remember, they're probably consuming this on their phone whilst they're doing something else. They're distracted, they got notifications coming in, messages coming in, maybe people in the background talking. There are loads and loads of stimuli in their environment when they're consuming this content, so it needs to be easy for them to actually consume it, or they're going to get distracted. You can also use short sentences in order to do that. That's why you often see people writing short, punchy bullet points. It's because it makes it easy for people to scan the piece of content. Even if they don't read the entire piece, they can scan it, find out a few key sentences, and understand the post and be able to engage and ultimately follow. or buy in the future. White space is really important as well. Do not write big blocks of text. It makes it incredibly hard to read. Try and condense the value that you're sharing into frameworks and processes, because if you share them as frameworks and processes, it increases the perceived value of that content. People think the chances of getting success are far higher when you share a step-by-step framework or a system or a model compared to if you just share information, and that therefore increases the perceived value of that piece of content. They're going to trust you a whole lot more. It also just shows that you know your model and your industry inside out to the point where you're able to condense information into a framework for people to follow. Also use lists where you can. This makes content skimmable. It makes it really easy to read rather than having big blocks of text. If you can use lists to break apart that text and make it easy for people to scan, more people are likely to read it. Again, increasing the perceived value of the content. Once you've hooked people in at this stage, you've provided some digestible value for them, you want to leave with a mic drop takeaway. So you've got people's attention, you've delivered on what you said you were going to deliver on. What you need to do now is essentially say what you said. Okay, so say what you said, but in the most catchy and engaging way possible. And this is like the mic drop moment. Imagine you've been delivering a talk on stage, you get to the end of your talk and you deliver that final punchline. You drop the mic and walk off stage and everyone applauds. That's the kind of thing you want to create with your content. So you need to make sure that this is memorable and catchy. You're essentially summing up the entire piece of content that you shared in a tweet-like summary. If you were going to write a tweet about this LinkedIn post, what would that look like? Use that as your mic drop takeaway. Little hint for you, what you can also do is then you can take that mic drop takeaway and actually repurpose it onto Twitter, and you've just doubled your content output. There's a missed opportunity at the end of the post that everyone is ignoring though, which is the PS. Now, in emails, PS is actually the second most read part of an email after the subject line, and in LinkedIn posts, it's not too different. A lot of people will skip straight to the bottom or skip straight to the creative where the PS is going to be situated. So using a PS to either add a call to action, if you want them to download a guide or book a call with you, maybe add some further value. You can include things like pro tips in the PS section, or just to signal your authority, i.e. to state the results that you've personally been able to achieve with this, is a really subtle way of proving your credibility and getting people to trust you without it seeming like you're trying too hard in order to win them over. So use the PS section carefully to further the trust that you're able to build with your audience or convert them to the next stage of working with you. And the final thing you want to do is add complementary creative. So the creative on your content is either going to be a video, it might be an image, it might be a carousel, an image could be a photo, or it could be a graphic. These are all pieces of creative that you can include with your LinkedIn post. Number one reason you want to share this is because it increases the screen space your post takes up. If you look at your LinkedIn feed now, for example, you'll notice the difference between a text-only post and a text plus creative post, how much screen space each one of them takes up. So it's more attention grabbing to have one of these, but also you can use them as their own piece of content in their own right. So you want to use these to supplement the copy. That is, the creative and the text should make sense on their own. If you just posted one of them on its own, would it still make sense? But also they should complement each other when they go together. So use the creative to supplement the copy and say something that complements it, but not to say the same thing or not to say something completely different. They need to complement each other nicely. It will have to make sense on its own, but it also has to make sense in the context of the post. And if you include all of those things, that's 7 steps to writing highly viral LinkedIn content that's actually going to build trust with your audience and ultimately convert connections into clients at the same time. Now, as I said before, I've actually created an entire guide on doing this, which includes a breakdown of how LinkedIn's algorithm works. It takes you through beginner to intermediate to pro when it comes to creating content. And it also gives you 10 content structures that you can literally plug and play into your business. These are proven content structures that we have created from high performing content we've published previously. And I show you how to streamline the entire process with AI. So if you want to get this guide, just check the first link in the description and you'll be able to download it for free. Now, the final thing I want to run you through before we wrap up is a few things that you can do depending on your goals on LinkedIn. For example, if you want to grow your LinkedIn account, there are a few things you should be thinking about. Why do people actually follow others online? Well, there are 4 key reasons why someone might follow you: to be educated, to be entertained, to be inspired, and to be nosy. So when you're creating content, think about how you can actually facilitate that for people. How can you educate them more than anyone else's? Can you entertain them? That's something that's typically missing from LinkedIn. So if you're naturally quite a humorous or funny person, can you include some entertainment in there? But also the two biggest ones that people miss is inspire people. Just give them that moment of inspiration, that light bulb that goes off in their head that maybe is more valuable than a 19-step framework that's going to take them hours and hours to implement. And can you allow them to be a little bit nosy? Can you share the behind the scenes of your business? Share a process or a framework that you normally reserve for your private clients. That's going to be something that hooks people in and gets them following you because they want to see more of that in the future. If you're looking to grow your bank account though, you need to think about what someone would have to believe in order to actually work with you, right? So there are a certain set of beliefs that somebody has in order to justify the decision to work with you. Firstly, they have to realize they have a problem, right? If they don't have the problem they solve, or even worse, they don't realize they have the problem that you solve, they're never going to buy from you because they won't see the value in it. So a lot of your content should actually be around just illuminating the problem and making them problem aware. Who do you think they're going to go to help solve the problem if you're the one that made them aware of it in the first place? They're going to go to you. But they also need to believe that this problem is costing them money or even time or status. If it's not costing them one of those two things, they're probably not going to see it as significant enough to justify spending 4, 5, maybe even 6 figures solving it. So you want to show them the problem is costing them a lot as well. But they also need to trust you. So one of the beliefs that they should have is that you are someone they can trust. So you need to build up your own authority and demonstrate your credibility in the content that you share. They also need to believe that your way is the best way, because there could be any number of ways of solving that particular problem. You need to convince them that your way of doing things is the best. And all of those can be solved in the content you share. So the content you share should address each of these beliefs that someone would need to have in order to justify the decision to work with you. And if you want to just build up your authority generally to improve trust and increase your conversion rates, you can do it in a few ways. All of this is through what we call authority signaling, which is quite a subtle way of building up authority. It shouldn't look like you're trying too hard to build authority. One way you can do this is with the imagery that you use. So if you used a photo of you on stage, for example, it's going to signal a lot more authority than if you had a selfie in your bedroom. You can use subtle cues throughout the content. Brief mentions of some of the results that you've achieved, mentions that you actually work with people like them on this sort of thing all the time. This needs to be subtle. If you're doing it too obviously, then it will look like you're trying to brag, and it actually does more damage to your authority than benefit to it. You can use associations. So if you have photos with highly influential people within your industry, sharing those photos with the content positions you as on a level with them, and people start to see you as an authority simply through that association. Brand really is just a collection of associations. So if you can associate yourself with other influential people, it's going to make you influential as well. And also the tone. People are so worried about coming across as arrogant that they actually lose all confidence in what they're saying. And if it doesn't seem like you have confidence in what you're saying, how could you think your audience would have confidence in it either, right? So you need to have a certain level of confidence and assertiveness about the advice that you're sharing, because if you don't believe it, why would anyone else? And those 3 things are going to help you grow your LinkedIn account, build your bank account, actually sign clients, but also build your authority as well. Now, if you want to see more of the system that I've used to generate over $3 million personally and millions more for my clients using our personal brands on LinkedIn, let me know in the comments which topic should I cover next, and make sure you hit that subscribe button because then you won't miss the next video that I share.